Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio. Brought to you by OnPay. Built in Atlanta, OnPay is the top-rated payroll and HR software anywhere. Get 1 month free at onpay.com. Now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Atlanta Business Radio, and this is going to be a good one. But before we get started, it's important to mention our sponsor, OnPay. Without them, we could not be sharing these stories. Today on Atlanta Business Radio, we have Kathryn Petralia with Kabbage. Welcome, Kathryn.
Hey, thanks so much. It's great to be here.
Well, before we get too far into things, congratulations on the relationship now with American Express. Big achievement.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I was looking through my records of when the first time we spoke to somebody from Kabbage, and I think it was 2013, and it was with the guy from Rody was representing you guys, and long time, got big achievement. You guys have just been kind of the shining star for the Atlanta startup community, I think.
Well, it's certainly, we're flattered for you to say that, but it's been a really exciting thing to build and grow a company in Atlanta.
So now, what was it like at the beginning, your vision of it, and now that you're at this stage, is it the way you envision things going?
I don't think anybody can envision the kind of, as Mark put it so succinctly, Mark is the founder of Rody, and he was our co-founder at Kabbage. It's like a roller coaster. I don't think you can predict, the twists and turns and dives, and also the great heights that you can reach in this kind of experience. So, I mean, we've always really been excited about a possibility of working with American Express. It's a great brand. They're a great company. We've always thought we'd make a great fit. And we did. We certainly didn't think we'd have to endure a pandemic. There are many, many things we didn't think would happen. So many investors asked us, how are you guys going to deal with a downturn? We had a lot of good answers, but nobody ever said, how are you going to deal with the pandemic?
That wasn't on the roadmap? You didn't have a little box for pandemic?
Well, now we do.
But always at the heart of Kabbage was kind of this love affair with the small business person and helping them. Can you talk about how that's coming along now as we are kind of in the midst still of a pandemic?
Well, I think small businesses clearly are in need more now than ever. And whether it's businesses that have sort of reinvented themselves and reimagined their business during this time, or whether it's new businesses who have found opportunities. I just actually met with a startup founder today who has a really interesting idea on how to make video collaboration in the office work better. I think there are so many really exciting businesses that are going to start as a result. That's been fun. But for the average restaurant owner in an urban environment, I think this has been a really significant challenge, and we're trying to figure out how we can best help them.
Right. There are certain industries that obviously are having a tougher time just because of the reality of the pandemic than others. Others are able to pivot or to kind of adjust their offering in order to serve new clients, but some people that have kind of the brick and mortars and the government changes rules where you can't do what you did, it's extremely challenging. So how do you kind of have conversations with those folks?
Well, I think what's been really fun to do is talk to these small business owners and hear the ways they're thinking about their business and what they can do differently, whether it's QR codes instead of menus, whether it's contactless payments, ordering ahead, expanding outdoor seating space. I think so many businesses are trying to figure out how they can continue to participate in the economy. One thing that's been really important to them is knowing who their customers are. So businesses, and I'll use restaurants again as an example, that already had relationships with their customers, that had a rewards program of some sort, that knew who their customers were, they've been able to stay in touch with them. I think it's really demonstrated how important it is to have a tool that allows you to know who your customers are. So when something happens, you can continue to communicate with them and have that relationship.
So now how do you help and let's say on restaurants, your restaurants have that relationship? How can you help them as a technology company maybe teach them or suggest that they can leverage technology to maybe deepen or create these relationships with the folks that want to help you?
A lot of that goes to the expansions that we've had in our products, like moving into things like checking accounts, moving into payments so customers can accept payments from their customers. Those relationships are financial relationships. And when you accept a credit card from your customer, you get some information about them. And especially if you ask them for a little bit more information, it enables that. So we've actually had a focus internally on building and enhancing products that we have to facilitate that customer relationship.
So now, let's educate the listener who are not familiar with Kabbage. Like, you started out as helping them from a financial standpoint, right?
For sure. Our very first product was a line of credit provided to eBay businesses between $500 and $12,000. And our business was built on new technology. And what I mean by that is eBay had launched an API that allowed third parties to get access to data about eBay sellers. And so that eBay sellers authorized, of course, not just random data that they just threw out there in the world. And so that sparked the idea for Kabbage, that we could help a new kind of merchant, an eBay business, and allow them to get access to capital to continue to buy inventory and continue to grow. But we've maintained a focus on real-time access to third-party data so that businesses, until a year and a half ago, our product was only a line of credit. They could come to our site, apply, and in less than 10 minutes have access to a line of credit up to $200,000. And so that was always the product we offer. We realized, though, that this line of credit product was a relationship with our customers, but we weren't offering them other tools to manage cash flow. And that's when we began development of a checking account, charge card product, payment acceptance product, invoicing, bill pay, those kinds of cash management tools.
And then it sounds like it's evolving also now to the ability to create these loyalty programs, this ability to get to know their customer a little better.
Well, a lot of payment companies have loyalty programs that are sort of built in so that your customer swipes their card, you know who they are, you can go back to them again and say, hey, how is your meal? We'd like to give you 10% off your next one, whatever it is. These are all features that are included in many payment products, and those are features we're building now.
And then, so then when you have this small business person in your heart, like you guys do, and you are kind of dealing with their finances, to add these kind of added levels of value to them, that just seems like it's part of the DNA, that you're always looking for creative ways to serve them and to help them, succeed, and especially during these difficult times.
And I do think it's born out of the relationship that we've had. We've learned from talking to our customers what they really need. I was actually during the pandemic, of course, during COVID, the government launched the Paycheck Protection Program, and we participated as a lender in that program. And we were very excited to help deliver, over $7 billion. Wait, am I right about that? $7 billion? All of a sudden, I don't remember the numbers. To more than 250,000 small businesses. We were the second largest PPP lender in the country. And so what was exciting about that was getting to know a lot more businesses, but again, just the natural expansion of the business to be part of an ecosystem that was helping them, during a time of need.
Right. And that was kind of the lifeline they needed just to kind of survive that, the beginning stages of this. And then now a lot of the folks are at that stage where this is it's going from the new normal to this is just normal now. And then they are still figuring out ways that they got to kind of keep growing, or at least maintain the status quo until better times arrive.
Yes, that's correct. And the market would tell you that today better times are arriving, just with vaccine news. But, at least I think we see a light at the end of the tunnel, and, we're all hopeful it's not a train.
So now, if you're kind of this business person who isn't familiar with Kabbage, what would you recommend their path to starting with you guys and starting to leverage maybe some of the things that they have at their disposal, but they're just not aware that there's ways to kind of take advantage of some resources they might have on hand already?
There are simple things such as insights that allow us to take our customers' data and predict cash flow for them. One of the biggest challenges that business owners have is we call it managing cash flow. For the business owner, it typically just means, am I going to have enough money next week or next month to do the things I need, whether it's buy equipment or supplies for my next project or advertise appropriately, whatever it is. Those are the things that businesses need. And so we're looking to find ways to help them answer those questions to solve the issue of cash flow. So there's like I said, the Insights platform allows them to just connect data sources so we can help predict for them what that data is, what that cash flow is going to be. And so then there's something like a checking account, which is not live yet, but it will soon be available to all businesses where they can come and get access to a checking account that will earn them money on their money and not charge them fees that are typically charged. Something I learned during PPP talking to a business owner was that he couldn't do a mobile check deposit like from his phone. He was used to going to the bank every week, and that was just a part of his routine, was just walking to the bank branch. But then during COVID, the branch was closed and he couldn't deposit his check and he couldn't do it on his phone because they hadn't built that yet. So I think business owners are realizing new ways that they can interact with their bank and needs that they had that they didn't anticipate.
So now do you find because of COVID and everybody has, there's so many people doing work from home and they're utilizing technology and they're leveraging kind of video conferencing and they're using tools maybe they were using sporadically before, but now it's just kind of been part of their life, that this is going to accelerate that move to leveraging more and more technology to help them do some of those things that are clunky. I mean, driving to the bank and waiting in a line and handing them a piece of paper and then getting another piece of paper back, like that seems so archaic and it seems almost impossible in today's world.
I know, it really does seem remarkable that you'd have to go to your bank for something like that. I do think that the demand for a digital experience is now. I mean, it's never been stronger than it is now for both financial institutions as well as lots of other companies too. So I think consumers and small businesses are understanding there are options that are available to them other than driving to their branch. And they're more interested in and willing to try those things now.
Why do so many banks have so many branches? Like, it boggles the mind that you can still drive and there's like a branch every block has another branch of the same bank. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, you'd think more and more people would be online.
It's a question that I have been asking myself for some time as a person with a checking account. Who doesn't go to a branch very often. And when I've been like speaking at conferences where there'll be, 500 people in a room, and I'll ask the question, when is the last time you walked into your bank? And if I get more than 10 hands, if they haven't walked into their bank in the last 6 months, it's shocking. Or if they have, rather, people just don't go to the bank anymore. And I guess the branches are sort of like dispersed processing centers for banks. They have to have humans looking at things and doing things. And so they can have a branch where people do that and provide other types of services that aren't in person, while at the same time being a recognized location for local customers. And so for businesses, actually, I just gave an example of why that branch location was important to that business owner. But, I think it's becoming less and less prevalent.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how many, just from a real estate standpoint, how can they afford to have all that real estate that no one goes to? I mean, unless it's just it's an advertising cost for the sign on the corner.
It is. I think another important point is that if you live in a metropolitan area, you take branches for granted. You can go to 14 different banks within a couple of miles. But if you live in a rural environment, you may only have one bank. You may only have an ATM. It may be really a hardship to get to an institution. So in many ways, the current landscape sometimes doesn't provide equal access to services if you don't live in an urban environment.
Well, then let's talk about Kabbage in respect to those terms. Are you a great solution for those folks that are doing business, maybe out of their house, but in a rural environment that you are going to be able to get a whole suite of business finance services from you guys just all online?
Yes, I think the answer is yes. I talk a lot about fintech, which is the industry, I guess, in which we work. Fintech is not a new thing, but fintech is a new term. One of my favorite things about fintech is that it democratizes access to financial products and services. And fintech's been around for a long time. The example that I'll give that people don't think of as fintech is the ATM. While it's a simple, humble device, it allowed people to access banking services at night when they weren't working, if they couldn't get to the bank during bankers' hours. That was a really important tool and product that helped get a lot of people into a bank that weren't banking before. And you flash forward to now to a company like Kabbage, and now we can provide a small business a checking account. They don't have to walk into a branch. They can get checks. They can do bill pay. They can deposit checks. And you don't have to walk into your branch to get approved. You can do it all from your phone. So I think it is really important. We think about how we serve women and minorities, and we think about, the access that we're giving, because there's not a person, a human looking at you on the other side of the table, making a judgment about you and your business. We can just use data and performance information to make these decisions. And I think it's much more fair.
And then it's also that not only is it just the transactions of depositing and getting and depositing and receiving money, you can also provide loans and, kind of cash flow help during rough times based on the data you've already got from these individuals.
Yes, that's true. Although, it's funny, people want to talk a lot about like helping business owners through rough times. And the way our customers tend to frame it is more about helping them be there to take advantage of an opportunity for growth. And I think about a construction business, and, the way they operate is they do the work, buy the supplies, pay their people before they ever get paid. And so it's really hard. You think about, well, why wouldn't you want to take that next big job? And I know about this a lot from my grandfather, who owned an electrical contracting company in Southwest Georgia. And sometimes taking on the next big job meant you had to have a good relationship with your banker, because you had to know that you could buy the materials and supplies and pay your people before work ever even started and long before you would get paid. So I think those kinds of businesses don't think of it as tough times. They think about it as a tremendous opportunity to grow their business, but it's hard to do without access to capital.
Right. I've talked to many people, a similar type of problems, that there's opportunities ahead of them, but they need something that they can't afford by writing a check for it. But they have the deal there if they could get the funding. So it's a chicken and egg thing a lot of times. And maybe it's not a tough time, but it becomes a bigger decision than maybe it has to be if you have the right kind of financing partner.
A lot of business owners will put their home on the line. They'll, put their retirement on the line because they know it's a great opportunity. But, if you work for GE, nobody asks you to put your home on the line. So I feel like business owners don't have access to the same tools that big businesses have. It's really important.
So now in these cases, this is where Kabbage can come in handy, right? You can look at their history and then you can see that the opportunity and then give them resources that can help them take advantage of some of these things.
Yes, that's exactly right.
So now for you in this journey, what has been the most rewarding part?
Kabbage was started because of an API, which I mentioned earlier. It was technology that inspired Kabbage. We thought, wow, wouldn't it be really cool to use this data and use this technology to do something interesting for a new population, eBay businesses, which in 2007, that was a new population. And so I didn't really think about how it would help as much as, wow, that's really cool. I would love to be part of doing that because it sounds interesting and it's solving a unique problem. But talking to customers all the time, every day, understanding how it helps them, getting letters from customers who were so grateful for that line of credit or for that PPP loan or whatever it was that we believed in them. I think that's been the most rewarding thing, is realizing how we're participating in the economy when you think about how important small businesses are to the U.S. economy, half of our non-farm GDP, 2/3 of all new jobs. And for every $1 billion in capital that's deployed to a small business, 22,000 jobs are created. So we've been responsible for helping to create hundreds of thousands of jobs at Kabbage, and it's really rewarding and exciting to do something that's meaningful and important.
Now, how many clients have you had over the years?
Well, pre-PPP, we had served about 250,000 small businesses. And we more than doubled that through the course of PPP. We met a lot of new customers through that process and through that program.
Wow. So you just started extrapolating the amount of impact you've had in the communities all around is it just the U.S. or is it the globe?
We focus in the U.S. We've partnered with global banks in the past, but most of our focus has been on the U.S.
Right. So the impact there in the United States, and then, like you said, helping them through with the PPP loans. I mean, just you guys must sleep good at night. I mean, you're making such a big impact on a lot of people and a lot of community. I mean, the ripple effect really does impact those communities. It's not just those firms.
You know, it's funny that you say that about sleeping well. Certainly nobody slept during PPP. That was insanity. I mean, we were on conference calls at 1:00 in the morning just trying to make this thing work and helping customers. But subsequent to that, I mean, I get emails almost every day or a message on LinkedIn from a business who needs help with something. I think it still keeps me up at night worrying about how these businesses are going to perform. How are they going to get the help they need? When is this going to end for them? You know, I think I'll sleep well once these businesses feel like they're on steady ground.
Yeah, we'll all sleep better when that happens. I mean, but change is part of the deal. I mean, if you're in business, it's not for the faint of heart.
That's a very good point.
So now what's next for you now with the American Express partnership? What's the future hold?
We really think it's exciting to be part of a company that has always focused on small businesses, always focused on helping small businesses, has an amazing brand that is almost universally beloved. So we feel we're going to be able to amplify our efforts to small businesses to continue to serve even more of them and to deliver even better products and services.
Now, is the name Kabbage going to stick around, or is it going to be an American Express offering?
We are still Kabbage.
Kabbage will be around for a while. Good stuff. Well, Kathryn, thank you so much for sharing your story. If somebody wants to learn more about your services, the website?
It's www.kabbagewithak.com.
Good stuff. Thank you again for sharing your story. You're doing important work, and we appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Lee.
All right. This is Lee Cantor. We'll see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio. And remember, this work would not be possible without the support of our sponsor, OnPay. Please support them so we can continue to share these important stories.
Today's episode of Atlanta Business Radio is brought to you by OnPay. Built in Atlanta, OnPay is the top-rated payroll and HR software anywhere. Get 1 month free at onpay.com.